Welcome to So Very Easy. My name is Laura, and I love making these little bags. They're quick, they're easy, they look great in all fabrics, and the pattern is free. Now I'm going to make this bag, but I'm going to change it, and I'm going to have an outside pocket and a handle. I do hope you join me. The pattern is a free download from Emmeline Bags. I'll put a link in the description so you can follow along. And in the pattern, there are two sizes that we can use. And I'm going to make the large one. But the construction for the large and the small are identical. This bag can be made with hardware or without hardware. The hardware gives it a nice firm shape. What gives it its shape are these wires that are going to be put inside. And you can get both small and large. We're going to need a 22-inch zipper, and I've chosen a purse zipper, but you can just use a plain zipper. I'm going to have handles, so I want each handle to be about 30 inches. So you're going to need 60 inches of this webbing. There's inside pockets, and you're going to need two and cut them at 8-inch squares. Now for the fun fabric on the outside. Both the fabrics are from Ink and Arrow. And well, let's face it, they are really cute. The pocket on the outside, I'm just going to have black so that it matches my handle and my zipper. And I need lining. I did use an interfacing on the lining and the fabric front. It's just going to keep it nice and crisp looking while it's being used. 2 pieces for the lining, 2 pieces for the outside bag, and 2 pieces for the pocket are all going to be the same size. 18.5 inches by 12 inches. The front pockets, you're just going to take those 2 pieces, fold them in half, press them. That's going to make your pocket. To give it this shape, there are a few things you can use. You can use a fusible fleece, or you can use this foam, and it gives it that strength and stability. This one is from Fairfield. It's called Support. And to save some time, I'm going to glue my layers together. And this is a fusible web. It's called Stick, and it's from Fairfield, and it's double-sided. What it is it looks like a very, very fine mesh, but it's glue. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put either the fleece or this support on that bag front. So I'll just place it in the center and then turn it over so that glue is in between those 2 layers. Center this foam right on top of that piece. Then you can take this to the iron and fuse those layers together. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out corners. But we're going to cut out the corners on all pieces. The front pieces, the 2 lining pieces, and the 2 pocket pieces. If you're able to put them all together and cut them, well, it'll save you a little bit of time, but if not, you can do them separately. You're going to line all of your fabrics up and make sure that if you have a directional fabric, that the bottom is the area you're going to cut. And as for the pockets, you don't want to cut the fold. You want to cut those 2 layers that are opened. What you're going to want to do is cut out in each corner a 2-inch square. The first thing we're going to do is put that inside pocket on. The inside pocket is an 8-inch square. You're going to fold it in half and then stitch from one side down to the other, leaving a little opening here. You can turn that right side out, press it, and that will be your pocket. You won't have to close that little end up because it's going to be stitched when you stitch your pocket down. The pocket placement needs to go 4 inches from the bottom and then with the center of the bag. You'll be able to stitch around the 3 sides, and that will close that seam. So the fold is up at the top. Now we can work on the front of the bag. Now this part is not in the directions because this is what I'm adding. So each side is going to be treated the same. I have my handles and I want to place them approximately 2 inches right up from that bottom. A comfortable measurement is to go from one edge over to 6.5 inches, this edge over at 6.5 inches. And then I'm going to be able to take the handles and put them right up against those marks. The next is to stitch these handles down. So you're going to be able to go along one side, up and over and back down, and only stitch 4 inches. You want the top of the handle free. So now that it's stitched, that handle is free. I'd recommend using matching thread, but this way you can see it. Now we can put the front pockets on. You're going to have the fold up at the top, so the corners are going to match up. With this top piece pinned on, draw a line right down the center of that handle. You're going to start right up at the top and go right down to the bottom. Do it to both sides, and you'll be able to feel that handle inside. You'll need one more measurement, and that's to draw a line from one corner all the way over to the other corner. And these are the lines you're going to sew. I like to add just a little row of stitching right along that edge. That's just going to hold those flaps down so they don't get in your way. So what I've done is I have handles that are free, and I have 3 pockets on each side of the bag. I'm going to add a little metal decorative front. She has lots of different things you can add to the bag. To add this little piece, it's really easy. You have these 2 long posts, and what they're going to do is they're going to go through the fabric. They're going to get locked on the other side with this metal piece. But this you're going to be able to use as a guide. So wherever you want it on the purse, you're going to be able to just lay it down. And then you can put just 2 little marks right where those holes are. What you need to do is just make tiny little holes, just enough for these to go through and to stay nice and tight. When the little holes are made, you're going to be able to take those teeth and stick them right through that hole. When you turn it over, you have the teeth coming out. Place the metal piece right over the end, and then you're going to fold one edge and then the other edge over. So it's nice and secured on there. And you have a nice decorative front. With the little additions done to the front, we're now able to continue following the pattern. Take that handle and stick it in a pocket to keep it out of your way. The next thing we're going to do is sew the zipper onto the tops. You need to find the center of the zipper and center it up with the center of the bag. You're going to be able to sew the zipper and the lining together in one step. So we're going to start with one side at a time. So you have your front of the bag and the top of the zipper. You want to take that zipper and just fold it down. So now that the 2 fronts are touching. Put a couple of pins just to hold it on. Now we can add a lining. So take your lining and turn it upside down. So the bag is going to match, and you'll be able to match up that top. Now you can take out those pins and repin that top and make sure all of your edges match up. So if you were to lift this up, you're going to have the zipper inside that seam. And then take that zipper and undo it all the way. Regardless if it's a single zipper or a double, take that end and pull it right off of the fabric. Take this little zipper and pin it out of the way. So now when you flip this back, you're going to be able to stitch those 2 layers together and the zipper right in the middle. You need to stop 1 inch from the edge. So take and mark 1 inch. So you now can sew that zipper together, starting there, going all the way and stopping there. So you'll have an inch open. Put a zipper foot on and stitch it down. With that zipper stitched down, when this is folded out, you can take that pin out. The lining is going to be able to go right along the front. And that zipper is poking out, so you have both sides finished. We need to do the same thing to this side of the zipper. Do up the zipper again, just so you can get the placement of that front. Lay the front down, both layers together, so that zipper is out. Now you're going to be able to take the front and line them up. Just flip them down, So both sides are touching, and that zipper end is now sticking out. You can line up the side of the bag and the top of the bag with the top of the zipper and temporarily pin it. When it's temporarily pinned, you can take this and turn it over. Now you have the lining facing you, but the zipper is still out, and you should be able to see your pins along the top. You'll be able to take the next lining so that the top will go along the top of that zipper. Now what you've done is you've made sure all of your edges are lined up, and you can take those pins out and repin those layers together. You need to make your 1-inch marks up at the top. You're going to need to undo that zipper now. So the lining is going to lift up, the front of the bag is going to lift up. Now you're going to be able to undo that zipper, and when you fold it back, you're going to be able to keep this piece out of your way so that you can sew this line here. So at a side view, you have the first zipper sewn in. Now you're going to do the second side. So that's zipper in starting and stopping at that 1-inch mark. When the zipper's done, and you'll notice when you open up the bag so that the fronts are together, you can close that zipper and you'll have your two fronts lined up, and if you turn it over, you have your linings lining up and the pockets are going in the right direction. Before you go any further, press these seams so that they're nice and tight against your stitching line for the lining, and make sure they're pressed for the front. To sew the sides together, take the two fronts and put them together. Then you're going to be able to take the two backs and put them together. You do need to make sure that zipper is open. You're going to stitch a 1/4 inch all the way along each side. But what you're going to do is you're going to take that little zipper and you're going to tuck it in out of the way. You have left that 1-inch opening, which is going to give you lots of room to sew that 1/4 inch seam on both sides. And with that zipper pinned out of the way, match and pin up your edges and stitch down both ends. Before you sew the bottom closed, you can take this to the iron and press those side seams open on both sides. Now with those side seams pressed open, it's going to look nice when you turn it right side out. So you're going to need to match up that bottom seam and stitch down along the front all the way. For the lining, you need to match up that bottom, but you need to leave an opening. So you just want to stitch a little bit here. So open up the bag and have the two seams, the seam along the bottom and the seam along at the top, match. If you take your bag and flatten it, you're going to be able to match up that edge better and match up those two seams. Now you're going to be able to stitch a 1/4 inch right along that edge. When those corners are done, you can turn that bag right side out and put your hand in and poke out those corners. Now you need to top stitch the front and the lining together. So you're going to want the lining nice and flat and the front nice and flat. And that's why having that pressed previous is going to help. So you can do a row of top stitch going all the way around, moving the zipper out of your way. Now the bag can be used exactly the way it is. It is perfectly fine to use it this way. However, to put the wire in is very easy and it gives it this great shape. To put the wire in, you're going to need to make a little casing right at the top. So go about a 1/2 inch from your stitch line down and stitch all the way around. When that casing has been done, all you need to do is go to the inside, and right where that side seam is, where you've done that casing, all you have to do is take out a couple of stitches, just enough for the wire to fit through. And you only need to take it out of the lining. Now you're going to be able to take the wire and stick it in one side and just work it all the way around the bag. Take the second wire and put it through to the other side. When the wires are in, the bag is going to stay open for you and it has a nice shape. The bag will just close when you do up the zipper. And with that frame in there, it gives it a really nice shape. Has beautiful sides, a nice flat back. All you need to do now is finish off the lining of that bag. So here's the bag without that extra outside pocket and handle. It's exactly the same size, and that has the handle and the outside pocket on it. This is the large bag. This is the small bag. To give you an idea on the sizes of the bag, the small one will actually fit right inside the large one. Regardless if you make the nice small one or the large ones, with or without the handle, you are going to find lots of uses for these bags, and they make great gifts. I'll put a link in the description so you can get that pattern. And as always, thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe, and as always, come on back. Let's see what we're sewing next time in the sewing room. Bye for now.